Hey, what's up, guys? Rich Morgan here with Magic Touch Mechanical in Mesa, Arizona. We're an air conditioning and heating company, and I've been trying to do a little bit better about posting some videos on commonly asked questions for air conditioning and heating, fireplaces, all the things we do. Obviously, right now it's mid-July in Phoenix. I think supposed to hit 115 today, maybe 119 by this weekend. Um, so I thought I would continue just the topics on air conditioning for now. And today I wanted to talk about water leaks on the side of your house. I know you wouldn't normally attribute water leaks to air conditioning, but in fact, we get a lot of calls about water leaks and people asking if they need an air conditioning contractor or a plumber. And we'll talk a little bit about why. With monsoon approaching soon in Phoenix, we're going to see a lot more of this as the humidity levels rise here. We're going to field a lot of calls. And so I just thought we'd help some people out who start researching this soon enough. I know in some parts of the country, a lot of people are already researching this, trying to figure out if they have a problem or not. So I did write a blog article on this subject. It's on our website. It is airconditioningarizona.com. And in the upper menu on the right side, just click blog. On June 29th of this year, so June 29th, 2023, I did write an article. It's called Water Leaks Pipe on Side of House. I kept it as basic as possible so people that were searching it would find out what was going on. So, so first off, usually the first question we get is, should we call a plumber or an air conditioning company? I have water leaking from a pipe on the side of the house. So sometimes this is an issue and sometimes it's normal operation. So let's talk about how to identify what's what. So the first thing you need to do is identify the location of the pipe or the fitting that's coming out of the wall. Typically, you're going to see a fitting or a pipe coming out of the wall near the foundation on the side or the back of the house. It can be in the front of the house as well, but you're going to see one, maybe two in different areas of the house. So first you have to identify where it is, and then you have to identify what kind of material it's made out of. So first off, let's talk about air conditioning condensate, right? So an air conditioner normally produces condensation. And it's normal for that condensation to be plumbed outside to exterior wall down near the foundation. And 99% of the time, you're going to find that this pipe is made out of PVC, made out of plastic. And typically, you're going to see a little 90-degree elbow. So it's going to come out of the wall, then you're going to see like a little elbow-shaped fitting that's going to be pointed towards the ground. That is typically from your primary condensate drain line. And it is completely normal to see a slow drip coming out of that when the humidity is higher or the dew point is higher. Very normal, and that means normal operation. You actually want to see not flowing water, obviously, but just a drip of water, pretty constant, and that's something that's completely normal. Then we have another pipe that is typically plumbed outside towards the foundation or real low on the wall. And that is the pressure relief valve line, drain line, coming from your water heater. Now, you do not want to see water dripping out of this or trickling out or gushing out. On your and typically the PRV line, the pressure relief valve line, is plumbed out of copper. In fact, by code, it's supposed to be plumbed out of copper. So if you see a copper line dripping, now, like I said, 1% of the time, somebody might have spent the extra money and plumbed the condensate drain line in copper. You don't typically see that in a residential application. You only see that in commercial applications most of the time, although I have seen it. So when it's coming from the pressure relief valve line, now we may have a little bit more serious problem. Maybe not. We're going to talk about that. But in this case, now we want a plumber. We no longer need an air conditioning company if that's where the problem is coming from. So your pressure relief valve line is, like I said, is supposed to be by code plumbed in copper. It's supposed to be connected. And it is a little valve or a little stem looking device that's usually either on the top of the water heater or up high on the side of the water heater. And there's usually a copper pipe plumbed into that. There shouldn't be any flexible pipe plumbed into it. It should be hard pipe by code. So what that device does is if the pressure builds up in that water heater, so the water heater doesn't blow up and actually explode, that valve will open up. It'll sense the pressure. It will open up and it will allow the pressure to relieve itself via that pressure relief line, that valve line. So every once in a while with a water heater, you'll see where that valve just has a real slow drip, and it's not necessarily that there's a problem. It's just that it has become a little bit unseated, if you will. So there's a little rubber stopper that sits inside there, and if that thing's just a little bit loose, now it's going to allow some water to trickle through there. So if you're pretty handy, an easy thing to do is just take a little bit heavier screwdriver or a wrench. If you're going to use a hammer, be very, very delicate and just give it a couple little taps. And if that stops the dripping, you just reseated that valve, and it's not that big a deal. Just watch it over the next couple days. Make sure you don't see any more drips. That's pretty common. If you can't reseat that valve, at that point you want to get a plumber involved, unless you're handy and you can actually change a pressure relief valve yourself. That it takes some doing. I mean, somebody like myself or a licensed plumber, it's something that we've done often, but I wouldn't recommend it for the layman tackling something like that. There's a lot involved in it. So now let's get back to the AC lines and talk about when there is a problem with your air conditioner. First off, it's going to depend on where your air conditioner is located, right? So, and when I say air conditioner, we have the outdoor unit, that's the condenser, and then we have the indoor unit. And the indoor unit is typically, it's referred to as an air handler, or if you have a gas furnace, the coil that's connected to the gas furnace. And there's two most common locations. The most common location here in Phoenix and in a lot of parts of the Southwest is going to be in the attic. Now, let's talk about that first. So if you have a unit in your attic, you either have a heat pump or you have an air coil or a coil connected to a furnace. But that air handler or that coil is what we call horizontal. It's installed horizontally up in your attic. And in that case, it's supposed to have what they call an emergency drain pan underneath. So your condensate pan, your primary condensate pan, sits inside the unit and it's right underneath the coil. And then as moisture drips down that coil, it collects in the pan and it comes out of that primary drain line, that one that's down low by the foundation. Again, completely normal. Now, your emergency drain pan is if that primary line is plugged up. And if that primary line is plugged up, what's supposed to happen is that emergency drain pan underneath it is supposed to collect the water, and there's a drain line connected to that, and that is typically routed up high on the wall. So, and that's purposely routed up high on the wall because we want people to see it. If you see water dripping out of a pipe up high on the wall, like near the attic or, 8 to 10 feet above, or, if you're in a 2-story, maybe, 16 to 20 feet above, That's a problem. That means that your primary drain line is not draining correctly. And now you need to call an air conditioning company. Um, um, let's also talk about if you see, let's say something that's been leaking for a while. You might see rust signs, signs of rust, or you might see like dirt stains going down the wall where that pipe is dripping. And sometimes this can go on for a while and people don't notice because it's on the side of the house where maybe they don't go too often. And then when they see it, it's that now they already see this rust and everything. That's an indication that this has been happening for a while and that the pan itself has rust in it. So now we become more of an emergency situation. It's something you want to get somebody out to look at right away. One, to unclog the primary line and find out why it's clogged. And two, if that secondary line, if we have rust stain running down the wall, now the emergency drain pan, the thing that's meant to collect the water in the case of an emergency, has been doing its job for a long time. And the possibility of that rusting through and now dripping down into your home, onto your drywall ceiling and collapsing your ceiling is a very real probability. So that's the third pipe that you might see, and that one is also typically made out of PVC plastic, by the way. It's typically the only drain pipe that you're going to see up high. You're not going to see a water heater pressure relief line unless you're in like a 3-story condo or something. But typically they're supposed to be run down near the foundation, no matter what. What else can we talk about here? We talked about pressure relief. Let's talk about wet switches or emergency drain pan switches. So like when Magic Touch does an install, we include what's called a wet switch on every application. And that is whether it's up in an attic or it's in a closet or a mechanical room, or here rarely in a basement. Which reminds me, I mentioned that there's a couple locations where your air handler could be located, and I talked about attic, but I didn't talk about the other locations. Here in Phoenix, we'll sometimes see them in a closet in a hallway. We'll sometimes see them in the garage, and sometimes we'll see them in an exterior mechanical room. Depends on the neighborhood, depends on the home and when it was built. In a lot of places in the country, sometimes here in Phoenix, but rarely, but in most places of the country, we'll see them down in a basement. And there they're going to use a pump to actually flow the condensate up. So those are the other locations of the air handler. So the reason I bring that up is because we were talking about wet switches. So let's say here in Phoenix, when we have a air handler located in a closet or a garage, it's not going to have a secondary drain pan underneath it like that application in your attic. It's going to have one primary drain line coming out of it. So what do we do to protect the drywall below it and your flooring and everything if that primary line gets backed up? We use something called a wet switch, and when it's in a horizontal application, your garages or your mechanical rooms or what have you, we typically will run an inline wet switch. And what happens is if there's a moisture buildup and that drain line isn't draining properly, that switch is going to shut off the outdoor unit. And that's to notify you immediately. It's, you're not going to have AC, but it's saving your home from damage. So it's a worthwhile thing to have in there. If your air handler is located in an attic, we use a wet switch that's located in the secondary pan. It's called a hockey puck, or we nickname it a hockey puck because it looks like a hockey puck. And what's going to happen then is the moment moisture contacts that secondary pan, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to shut off the outdoor unit so it stops condensing, stops producing moisture. And the reason we use that on horizontal applications is we have found, Magic Touch has found that that is the best way to go about it, because what it does is it indicates right away we have a problem. We still have the emergency pan there, we still have the emergency drain line, but hopefully we never even need to use it, right? Hopefully we don't see, we never have to see rust coming down the wall, because we know immediately there's a problem with the primary line. So, yeah, that is the gist of what happens when you see water leaking on the side of your house. Again, coming out of a PVC pipe, plastic pipe down low by the foundation, normally not a problem. It's your air conditioner. It's normal operation. Even when you see it flowing a little bit more, it's just that your unit's pulling more moisture out of the air. An air conditioner is a quasi dehumidifier too, if you will. It's not a true dehumidifier, but it is in fact removing humidity from the air as well. If you see water leaking from up high, call your air conditioning company. It's not a plumbing situation. Call your air conditioning company. They'll get you taken care of. If you see water coming out of a copper pipe, again, 99% of the time, you're going to be able to trace that back to your water heater. If it's just a very slow drip, try that little trick. Tap it on the top of the PR valve with something real delicately. You don't want to smash on that thing. And if you're not comfortable doing that, no problem. Call a plumber. They'll take care of it for you. If that doesn't work and you can't reseat the valve, there is a little lever on top that you can kind of lift up and close back down. When you lift it up, it's opening that valve. So you can try that for a minute, and then there's a little spring adjustment in it you can just flop it back down, and you might see that solves the problem. So, hope that was helpful. If you have condensate issues or any kind of issue with your air conditioning and heating system, we also do fireplaces and fire pits, but check out our website, go to contact us. Our website is airconditioningarizona.com. If you want to read about what we talked about today, go in the top menu, airconditioningarizona.com. Click on blog in our main menu, and the article is called Water Leaks, Pipe on Side of House, and they're listed in date order. I published that on June 29th of this year, so you won't have to dig too far back. Hope that's helpful. Have a good one. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye.